Hi, this is Jacqueline Vance, and I'm going to go through my NCTE proposal and what I would do in a professional development proposal situation. So what I've put together is a graphic novel unit because I'm interested in exploring different social, economic, racially diverse backgrounds and incorporating this into my classroom. This year I'm teaching world literature, and I feel the need to incorporate more diverse voices within my classroom. So the idea behind this is that each of the different groups in my class would be reading one of three graphic novels. So the first one that we have is American Born Chinese. I wanted students to look at a situation here in the United States where you have immigration and whether or not people are being treated fairly based on their background. And this is a true story, and it is based on the author's life in San Francisco. And so then the next choice would be Persepolis, and that takes place in Iran with the revolution. And I was fortunate enough to be able to purchase both Persepolis and American Born Chinese earlier last year in the spring so that I could use them this year with world literature. And I feel like that is an important story to tell, and I like the idea of exploring the different religion that is involved there as well, and having students get a better perspective of different religions. And then the third graphic novel is March by John Lewis, which explores the Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement. So all three of these are nonfiction graphic novels. And to start with, the students will complete a background pre-reading presentation. And in their groups, their reading groups will have been assigned, their literature circle groups will have been assigned. And what they're going to do is they're going to research and then teach some of the background for each of the three different novels to each other. So these big six skills are a way of determining what people need to know and what should be incorporated as good background information for somebody who is about to read one of these graphic novels and hasn't any sort of background knowledge about it. So with these presentations, each group will have some sort of a visual poster or pictures, object, or skit to show the rest of the class. They'll have a class handout to use as a notes organizer so that students will remember that this is the background pertaining to Persepolis or March or American Born Chinese. And then afterwards they'll have a short comprehension quiz that they will go over with the class. So it's really, each group is teaching and testing each other on background information. So that will take several days to complete, but then they should have not only the background on the book that they're going to be reading, but also the background on the other two graphic novels. So after they build the skills, the background knowledge, they will then go to their literature circles. And this literature circle I like because not only does it have the illustrator which with a graphic novel, maybe you don't need the illustrator as much. So this is changed so that you're looking at different perspectives of the scene. But what I like about this one is that it has a new role that I had not used up until the last few years called Travel Tracker. And the Travel Tracker is representing the progression of the text visually. And with each of these novels, this works very well because the characters are moving and accomplishing important tasks that can be visualized through this Travel Tracker role. So, and then the other three roles are the more traditional type of roles of connector and discussion director and literary luminary. So during the reading, they will complete these literature circles and hopefully start to gain some insight as to the themes and the importance of these graphic novels historically for each of their time periods. After reading, there are a couple of important assessments that they will complete. The first one being a memoir writing assignment, and they will complete a 2 to 3 page memoir about something that happened in their own life. So with a lot of the high stakes testing in the past 12 or more years, at least in my school, narrative writing seemed to have been pushed to the wayside. It wasn't important to the end of course exams, and a lot of times our counselors did not want students to be sharing too much personal information, which would then cause them grief if they had to contact parents or intervene with a situation with the students. So narrative writing and definitely personal narrative writing had fallen to the wayside, but now with the milestones, that type of writing is being tested again, and I'm trying to incorporate some of this type of writing into my class. So I do, of course, say that, it needs to be school appropriate. It needs to be something that you're willing to share with your peers. And I do remind students that I'm a mandatory reporter, so don't share anything that you feel I would have to report. So this is a 2 to 3 page paper, and it's supposed to be a very small period of time. And they're going to talk about something very small, like winning a fair or scoring the winning touchdown in a game. So it's an important event in their life, something that's memorable for a reason. Maybe they broke their arm one time, or they remember going and getting their first dog. So it's going to be a shorter memoir. And then over the course of this year, we have been working on a lot of different power words, power verbs, and power adjectives. And so with these types of writing assignments, I ask that they incorporate some of these power words to kind of give their writing more descriptive words. So they are rewarded for incorporating some of the power words. And then I have a list of things that they should consider as far as, considering, is it an influential experience in their life, something that they can recall vividly so that they can actually flesh out the story, so that there's some sort of purpose or moral. Could be something that where they were taught a lesson or they started to see something in a new light. And finally, I tell them I want them to make their story come alive again, as far as, using the power words or using good metaphors, similes, hyperbole, include vivid details. And I saw this meme somewhere that says if you can't imagine dropping the mic after the final sentence, then you need a stronger conclusion. And I like them to remember that you're supposed to kind of end with a bang. and that the reader should feel that the story had a meaningful ending. And there's a rubric that goes with it. And then the final assessment that they will complete is a digital remix. And so with that, I have both the directions and the rubric. So with the remix, it's based off of the one that we did in this class. I did some research and found in different places some different remastered songs, and I actually heard this remix on the radio the other day, so that was kind of a good timing because I was looking for different ways to show remix to my students, and then it just so happened that I was listening to the Beatles channel, and they did a remix with Noel Gallagher of Help, and it has a completely different feeling to it than the original Beatles song, and both versions are really good. But it's a good way to illustrate how something can have a different feeling or a different tone or give a different message by being remixed and retold in a different way. And then, of course, the person who does remixing so well is Shakespeare. He's always taken, different history and news stories from his time period and the different histories and stories from England and Scotland, and he's turned them into famous plays. And so that's kind of a version of remixing. And so his plays have then in turn been remixed over and over again. So I will show my students some clips of a traditional form of Romeo and Juliet and then the remixed Baz Luhrmann version of Romeo and Juliet, and talk about how it's not just modernized but told in a different way, in a different light. Same with Taming of the Shrew compared to and this, of course, is with Elizabeth Taylor, and she's really fantastic in it. But then you also have the 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a really great retelling of the Shakespeare play. So it's not just modernizing something, it's reimagining it. So here are the directions for their remix, and I've included a lot of the ones that we used in our class. I took off the Obama poster maker since we've gotten the message to stay away from politics in school, and I felt like that could be cause for people to just go in directions I didn't want them to go in. So then the examples, I redid the hyperlink here and came up with some interesting Pokemon cards that are for the Kardashians. And there's Kim Kardashian and there's Kanye, and there's some different funny Pokemon trading cards for that. So that's one thing that they can look at without involving politics. So they will create their remix, and hopefully they'll kind of tie in some of the important themes or characters or plot of the graphic novel that they looked at, but then kind of reinvent it in a new way. I took a rubric that I use for a sentence animation project that I do I've used that project for Slaughterhouse-5, and I've also used it for Anthem, where students illustrate a sentence from a novel. And since it's kind of the same idea of looking at something in a smaller way, but really examining and analyzing it in depth, I took that rubric and restructured it so that it's now a digital remix graphic novel project rubric, because I find over and over again that my students want a lot of details about what to do and what not to do. So I have this rubric for them as well. And that's the basic overview of my project. And I put my sources and the proposal here as well. Thank you for listening.